Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck.
Yeah!
Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders. And term limits ain't going to do you any good. You're just going to wind up with a brand new bunch of selfish, ignorant Americans. So maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks around here, like the public. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody. The public sucks. Because if it's really just the fault of these politicians, then where are all the other bright people of conscience? Where are all the bright, honest, intelligent Americans ready to step in and save the nation and lead the way? We don't have people like that in this country. Everybody's at the mall, scratching his ass, picking his nose, taking his credit card out of his fanny pack and buying a pair of sneakers with lights in them. So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way. On election day, I stay home. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain. People like to twist that around, I know. They say, well, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But where's the logic in that? If you vote and you elect dishonest, incompetent people and they get into office and screw everything up, well, you are responsible for what they have done. You caused the problem. You voted them in. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who did not vote, who, in fact, did not even leave the house on election day, am in no way responsible for what these people have done and have every right to complain as loud as I want about the mess you created that I had nothing to do with. So I know that a little later on this year you're going to have another one of those really swell presidential elections that you like so much. You'll enjoy yourselves. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure as soon as the election is over, your country will improve immediately. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome to Ward 13. We were going to do the case against Ted Gatzis, but we're not going to do it tonight. I've talked to 3 sets of lawyers today, and I'm going down to Washington for another one. Incidentally, the 3 lawyers today weren't about Ted Gatzis.
Oh, okay.
But, that's an interesting smoking gun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I didn't
this
get
is
to,
a smoking gun,
yeah.
Of the West High School rape.
Yeah, so.
Which explains a lot. What really happened, but we're not going to talk about that, right?
Yeah, we're not. No, because I don't
not
know.
To
I know.
lie,
Yeah, I know.
Legal counsel.
Yeah.
About how to approach the U.S. Justice Department.
Right. And we're not going. Yeah. So
we're not going to talk about that.
Right.
We live in a city where people the rape of that girl. Whereas if you go and deal with the Bedford counselor in Exeter, you'll find out, there's 34 articles about that woman, just in the Union Leader. And the thing, where they actually have the girl talking, who was the 14-year-old who was raped, because her privacy is respected, Jim, just like the privacy of the girl in West High rape is respected by law. The only person being protected by privacy was Gatz's, and we'll call it the X factor.
Right.
Which
and Al.
It's outrageous.
So I just noticed that when the people in Bedford and other towns were outraged and
had forums about it.
Right, when local, for people who are not familiar with it,
the Union Leader talked about it.
When local councillors, etc., working in some of the school districts, including Bedford, went and offered moral support to somebody in court. So it was distant from them. It was like it wasn't something that happened in Bedford, but the people of Bedford were outraged.
Bedford, Exeter, and the surrounding communities of Exeter,
Right.
too, where people had forums, brought people there, and the students upset and parents. Not in Manchester, under Gatsis or Mayor Joyce Craig.
Right, right,
She has failed in that respect
right.
to explain why the police department did not go into the community to find out if that perp had assaulted other girls, because girls don't come forward.
Right, right.
And
Well, listen, the whole thing,
well,
and
I
I
just say Joyce Craig had nothing to do with that
Right.
petition. She knew nothing about it.
right,
I wrote that when I found out from a source, probably a good one, and not one either,
right.
that girl was thrown into the school without any help at all. And as we know, Ted Gatsis knew about the rape, or Nick Willard's a liar, and Dave Ryan's a liar.
Right.
And I have right to know Emily Rice, the city
Who's this
solicitor.
new city solicitor? Well,
New
now not
city
new, not so new, right?
I right to know her. We won't get into that.
Yeah.
Where she mischaracterized one of my right to know in order to deny me using privacy right, just like like the library privacy.
Right.
But
It's
just outrageous.
Well, there is a conundrum, and I don't know. You may know more about, but there is a. I was going to say conundrum, but there is a difficulty with, So let's say there are some givens, right? Respecting privacy is a good idea. Is a good
privacy
right.
is respected.
Right, and anonymity is, but at the same
she
time,
is
there's
anonymous.
also there's an obligation to inform the public, and the public need to know.
And that didn't happen.
Well, and it's not happening in multiple cases, though, right? So I was listening.
Well, we're in Manchester.
Right.
Well, do you want to
I'm
know
talking about
something,
Manchester,
Jim?
though. I'm talking about the
Okay,
fact.
Jim.
Yeah.
I was told, well, that lawsuit, I'll look at, and this is my opinion. This is not Jim's opinion, Manchester Public TV, or anybody's opinion. And do I have to coach everything in something? I was told, in fact, in the radio studio downstairs, why did you and the other person go after Gatsis over that rape when there's been multiple rapes in the high school and they've been covered up?
And we've heard, that's the first I've ever heard of that.
I don't know if the person's feeding me a line,
Right.
heard something, they might know. Then another person said, of course Gatsis knew about the rape. This is somebody that claims to be inside like the circle.
Right.
But they were going to respect their privacy. Yet, I guess, but he didn't know about this until Hogan, almost 2 years later.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
it's
I just think there are a number of
outrageous.
things going on. So we had the issue with the principal of West High School who.
What happened to that?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
We've been going
Mary
back,
Ellen, who I
yeah,
grew
yeah,
up with.
back. So then you had
She's just a kid.
then you had the lady who's the principal at Webster High School who's been missing since the first week of the
I've heard about
school year.
See, I've heard sources
but
tell
that-
you
the
stuff.
the problem
but
is
I don't know.
Yeah, so this is so.
I asked for a conduct board to investigate
Right.
it.
Then there was once the person from the teachers union was asking about some report on one of our schools where there's a climate of intimidation or something in one of
Racial
our schools.
intimidation?
No, this was This was between
disabled?
but no, between teachers. It was an unfair environment for teachers because of principals, whatever. But anyway, it was alluded to. It's something that's going on right now, but nobody knows, what that is, what they're talking about. I was enraged last week, or enraged is too strong a word, but in the middle of this fact that we've got
Compared to me, you're not
right,
enraged.
Nothing. But we've 1,000 teachers in Manchester who are out of contract or not, who are not getting
Right.
their steps and all the rest of it. And while this is going on, and the MEA, the Manchester Education Association, the teachers union, it seems to me are sitting on their hands.
And I
While-
talked to aldermen, don't even know what's going on.
Right. While all of this is going on, but what they're busily doing is they're busily lobbing bombs in over the wall at some administrators or principals in the city that they don't like. That for some reason they don't like what's going on. But we can't find out the truth of it because it's all.
I'm going to tell you, I was going to come on your show when you talk about the unions with my MEA shirts. You can have them back. When you don't do a thing when a girl is raped, when
Right.
you don't take a moral stand. And then, but here's the thing. Here's the Kavanaugh stuff. You hear any politicians talking about Ted Gatzis is running for executive council and this?
Right.
You hear Molly Kelly, I'm going to be the anti-Trump. I mean, hey, how about local issues? I mean, it's outrageous.
Right. Well, people, that's what I was saying to my show earlier on today, and I was talking about people paying attention. And just,
They don't.
And I said, go out and vote, but but in order, and when you vote, be educated about who you're voting for. And I had someone called in and was. In any case, I wasn't.
Was it our friend whose brother's now got a $55,000 job as the Register of Deeds? I hear when I found out about that from Bill Berry, and then when Barbara Shaw found that, she says, "What? We thought it was $100."
Is it really 55,000?
Yeah, they said it at 55,000 to Conte. I lost a margarita to Bill, but I didn't have any money, so he had to buy it anyway.
I'm surprised. I thought. So why did that election come up during the primary day, and not? Why wasn't it an election that was held?
Well, Ed changed to Republican because you have to be a Republican. He knew the guy, but I knew too because I talked to Ed. I thought he was just going for the $100 one. I said, "Oh, congratulations, Ed." But Gene, the head of the Manchester City Democrats, doesn't bother to recruit candidates on the county ticket. It's like
Well,
nobody cares.
Republicans, Democrats, all of them.
The Democratic New Hampshire Democrats is
I
awful.
don't know. It's just.
Do they take a stand? Somebody told me the other day. They asked about Gray. Is Gatzis going to beat him?
I just got a message from someone saying that that this microphone is off. Is that right?
Is the microphone off?
Oh, it is. All right.
Why don't you?
Someone's tuning.
How about my? Have you paid your for your car?
Yeah, I have for once. Yeah,
God.
yeah, I have. So, by the way, just as a little thing, since
I don't have the $10 to
but
give
no,
you.
I'll tell you.
Split.
So in Manchester, you go and you pay tonight, right? So I paid. I knew I was going to be coming on this show as well, so I paid.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were.
Extra amount. And so the meters stop at 8 o'clock, right? Right. So you don't pay after 8 or after 7. After 8. So I go in and I hit max because I was parking at 5:30.
Oh, you screwed yourself.
Well, yeah, so I paid till 8:34. So I'm
Oh,
like,
I've done
okay.
it, yeah.
So I'm donating, and I know it's a small amount of money, but I'm donating
36
34
cents.
Well, yeah, to the city of Manchester. Well, I got to tell you, when we had the mayor here, when Mayor Gatzis was mayor, and he used to park around the city with his
He has
mayor's
the placard.
just a piece of cardboard in the dashboard, was the mayor's car.
He used to park at his campaign headquarters with it.
Right, and not paid the lousy 70 cents or something for the hour. But anyway,
Well, here's a guy that took hundreds of thousands of dollars of benefits, attacked people that did take benefits, and he's a multimillionaire.
right. Well, the benefits thing drives me nuts, and I've changed my mind on that completely because originally my thought about aldermen and school board members accepting and being offered and accepting healthcare benefits was, it kind of doesn't matter a hill of beans, and if that's what it takes to attract some people, maybe that was my. But now, because as was pointed out to me, and it makes perfect sense. It's unconscionable for wealthy, perhaps some of them even millionaire school board and board of mayor and
Ted
alderman
Gatzis
members.
took it.
There are others
Every dime you could get.
who are accepting free health care from the city of Manchester, or the majority of it, while having while being wealthy, and yet there are children in the city of Manchester. 40% of the kids on special education in the city of Manchester are not getting the services they need. How do you marry? How do you go home at night and marry those two things?
Come on, you live in Manchester, New Hampshire. If you haven't realized what the Lucifer effect is, based on the Stanford prison experiment and Milgram's at the shock experiment.
Oh, yes, yeah,
Why
yeah.
people just stood around while the European Jewry was destroyed. I found out here.
Right.
These people, I can't believe it. I
Yeah,
honestly can't, and that includes all the politicians. But here's the thing, in the school board, you've heard the rumors that there's a little deal between people that run on, we're going to get rid of benefits, with a certain member of the board, that to get her vote. Oops. That they,
Right.
right to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that. Right to know anything in Manchester. You're going to find out, I don't even know if it's... Well, that's to the New Hampshire.
My thing is that I have to say,
Mr. Right to know, Richard Levas. What's his name? I'm conflating Levasseur and Rich Gerard.
Oh, you are? Okay, yeah,
Oh, you didn't see me at the school board?
I did not. Were you at the school board meeting last night?
Yeah.
Oh, what did you have to say there? Or did
Well,
you
I
speak?
said I was ashamed to be a citizen of Manchester, that silence is a crime. And then I brought up about I was going to conduct board Gerard. Not just on that, but you're telling me 1 week before, I Google searched the West High rape when we found out 2 years later to see if there was something else going on.
Right.
And we found out in the Rochester School District, Bolgan Vargas was the supervisor. And at the day after the arrest, he sent the letter out to all of the parents. And you're telling me it's just a coincidence he winds up here in Manchester, New Hampshire. And of course, there's no records at all, right? Because remember,
Right.
Gerard said
but he was, sorry, John, but he wasn't. Was it not Dr. Livingston who was here at the time of the rape in at West High School?
Come on. He was hired. Oh, yeah, there's a big coincidence. It just happened. My point is, you're telling me Rich Gerard and Gatsis never knew about that rape? And you just
don't
happened
know.
to find somebody that handled a rape. Come on. I was the Defense Intelligence Agency. There's no such thing as a coincidence.
Right.
You know, come on.
I don't know.
Are there any records of that search? No, they're not. Because remember, Mr. Right to Know Gerard was told by a search firm, consulting, not to keep records. This is just outrageous.
Right.
Outrageous.
Well, here's the other thing, though. While people can easily get involved in sort of the albeit important sort of details.
Here it is. The
Of,
letter that was sent out.
what's this? I didn't know there was going to be reading involved. It's like school now.
Oh, did you know that? Well, we'll
Dear
talk about
families,
that later, because I'm right to knowing that, too.
Family to school of the.
Oh, did you know that Emily... Here's an interesting thing. Do you know that Emily Rice told me that nobody in the city solicitor's office has ever heard of the Acott case that was settled for $150,000?
They've never heard of it?
No.
Oh, because it was before her time?
You're telling me there's nobody in that city solicitor's office that knew about it, and that she doesn't know about it when she took over the city solicitor's office? Come on.
So, and this case in Rochester was with an employee.
Still a rape. It's a rape of a girl, 15 years old. She had her privacy rights, because that's under the law.
Oh, okay. So this is
They
signed.
went out,
This
and
is
they-
signed by the school chief of secondary school. So that's somebody who's subordinate to the superintendent. Is that right?
Oh, like you want me to read you the article with Vargas is in it? In my show, I had the whole video where he talks. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'm not saying that he did anything wrong.
Right.
But the irony that he winds up here. My contention is that Ted Gatsis knew about the rape, and he lied when he said he didn't. Remember, he lied and lied and lied again on the day of the announcement. Then, you remember, somebody leaked the email to the school board. And then he had to contradict himself. You remember you were there the night he left when Samantha, his chief of staff, says, and we always know that an email's forever. I mean, gosh.
Right. So, but in the end, So, what are we accusing him of? Right.
I'm not
We're
accusing him of anything.
No, but
he did nothing wrong.
Right.
But when
exactly.
he talked about the West High rape, he never mentioned that.
Right.
Maybe it was a job qualification. You have to ask Richard H. Gerard about it. You know,
Right.
I'm not clairvoyant. I just bring evidence, and you have to put it together. You know, I'm not the prosecutor. That's why there's supposed to be a conduct. You know, I asked for a conduct board on Gatsis.
Right.
Remember who would go to any public or private hearing? And now he can't even go to a.
Well, he's been a no-show for he's refused to debate Gray China with.
He did that with Patrick Arnold. Remember when Patrick Arnold and Joyce were running
that's
that time
right.
in
Yeah,
2015?
yeah.
And the MEA had the thing. He wasn't there.
Right.
How could he go?
Yeah.
I don't know what he's afraid of.
What do you
Nobody's
think?
gonna ask him.
Have you any idea what the results of that election is like, or what the tea leaves say right now?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know that people are saying out on that Eddie Edwards and Chris Pappas is going to be awful close.
Yeah. So you're
Here's some stuff. Well, you know.
yeah. So you're
No, Boyan Vargas is. I've heard wonderful things.
Yeah,
about him.
yeah,
I
I
have
like
nothing
the guy,
against
yeah.
him. I'm just saying that could be considered by a jury or somebody that proof that Gerard, who I believe knew exactly because he was a factotum,
Right.
That's a good way to Ted Gatsis knew about it.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to talk. We're talking about the election for a minute, and the Grey Chinawit versus Ted Gatsis election. So that brought me to thinking about.
Well, bring it up. You told me about it before.
This thing with Elizabeth Ropp, who's running for. What's she running for? Register of Deeds or? No,
she's running against Lavasser.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
I recommended that she do it.
Right. And I know Elizabeth, and I'm just surprised. I've seen her now twice, 2 weeks in a row, and it looks to me like she's endorsing Eddie Edwards for the seat. So I'm just surprised. This is when we were in an earlier conversation. People were talking about Democrats and Republicans and all the rest of it. Well, just because you see a D after somebody's name, I don't understand how somebody who is supposedly
Elizabeth Rupp's not a Democrat. She registers as a Democrat. She's a Bernie Sanders supporter and a socialist.
Right. Well.
Okay.
Yeah. So those two things wouldn't. How would you get from there to supporting Eddie Edwards?
To destroy Chris Pappas.
And why would you want to destroy Chris Pappas?
Because I was in the Elliott Hospital for the latest thing, which let's not talk about that.
Right.
I went over to see her because her and her husband were in. They were on the phone to the head of Rights and Democracy, which I guess it's a Bernie group.
Right.
And I heard the conversation, and I wouldn't mention this unless what you just brought up. This is the second week you brought this up. Because remember, you were shocked last week.
I was shocked when I saw it last week.
This guy was talking about the head of Rights and Democracy, which a former school board member is a paid member of it.
Is it?
Large from Kathy Stubb.
She's with Rights and Democracy.
I'm not saying anything against her.
Yeah.
They were working on a hit piece that said that Chris Pappas was a big businessman, that the Democrat establishment ramrodded him through ramrodded Kelly through virtuous Steve Marchant, who actually voted for. But I would never think of voting for anybody other than Chris Pappas. Chris Pappas is Manchester. And Elizabeth Rupp, she agreed with me when arguing, you can't say that about Chris Pappas. He's actually a person, a good person, and he's not a big businessman.
Right.
That's not a big business. And they said, this is for the Rights and Democracy to get them fired up. And I was outraged. And then Elizabeth Rupp is a supporter of Mark McKenzie, who, if you remember, Mark McKenzie, towards the end, started raging against Chris Pappas. Mark McKenzie of the Fire Department. Mark, 28 votes in Ward 10, McKenzie.
Right.
Mark, 700 votes. And, Liz and the others saying, if he had only gotten all the union people to vote for him. I said, the union people know him.
Right. They know him better than most other people.
Well, look at the election. I said the NLRB had to overturn his election. And what else did I say? I was standing at Ward 10. And Mark McKenzie, we're just there, says, do you know that the union endorsed Bernie just to hold it for Joe Biden? I think, what the hell is he saying?
That's all nonsense. People
could have been, no, he could be. Well, Mark McKenzie's Mark McKenzie.
Right,
you have to know him.
Right.
He's never done anything for anybody I've ever heard of.
Can I just go to the point?
But you have to hear the story.
Okay.
Because suddenly then I got Mark McKenzie coming on to me. The NRLB never turned it. Well, Mark, guess what? The national board had to turn it over, the AFL-CIO. I mean, here's a guy. And here are Bernie people supporting this guy.
Right.
Who, Hillary rigged the election. I mean, but it was explained to me afterwards. The Democrats promised unity and they turned on us. So, but here's the thing, Jim. The stuff I heard is the stuff Eddie Edwards is saying about him right now.
Yeah.
That he is out of touch with people. With Eddie Edwards, it probably means he's gay, which is such horseman.
Right.
That Chris Pappas, and I'll tell you something. I loved Carol Shea Porter, and I would be hobbling with a cane putting stuff up. But I told Chris before her last election that if he ran, I'd support him because it is important to keep that seat
Right,
She did
right.
a great job, the VA. And he said he would.
What I don't understand, and I don't know, I don't want to wrong Elizabeth. Rob, I'm just going by
I'm
her.
just telling the truth.
Unless somebody has stolen her Facebook page and has been, because she keeps.
But she
going,
knows Eddie Edwards, so she
right,
probably
right,
likes him. I'm not saying she supports him.
Well, she's all right. Well, maybe
You have the feeling that she's supporting him.
I don't know. Why? Like, it's the middle of, it's 2 weeks before an election.
And what
what
did I just tell you?
No, I know.
That is the absolute. I swear to God.
But
That's
I
the truth.
and I don't understand.
And then Mackenzie comes down because you got firemen who are staging an illegal strike, a sick out, according to the 1980 New Hampshire Supreme Court, is an illegal strike. But what's Joyce Craig going to do? She's boxed in by aldermen who, the first day, she tries to put somebody on the zoning board, and she's stripped of that right. Not one person. And I knew what that was. That's the opening stratagem. And then they endorse Sununu, the fireman,
Right.
because she has to go to the National Guard if that's a strike. That's what happened in the 78 strike, which, incidentally, Mark McKenzie and them, they went over to the Manchester Historical Society and had a celebration of the 1978 strike.
Right. I asked some fire leaders at
You
a
did
meeting.
listen to Tim Baines' speech, did you?
Yeah. No, I didn't. Which speech? Which
About the firemen and the threats of violence.
Oh no, I didn't hear the speech about.
You should you should
Really?
watch it. I can only say, Tim, and I actually support the firemen's contract.
Right.
Because
right.
they're saying we got PTSD, and you want to know what? Because they're saying, like, here these guys, my friend, and then they're suddenly, says,
Right.
geez, that's, if you've ever been around me, I think they do have PTSD. You've given them, because of politics, safe station. So these people have to deal with that. That's trauma-inducing, too,
Yep.
because I've been with them.
Yeah.
So I support them, and it doesn't condone what they do. But I understand where suddenly, I was up at the mayor's office today, and her chief of staff saying, "You're being very aggressive." I said, yes, and I apologize, because I have PTSD. You're like in a combat mode. So I understand that.
But then,
They deserve a contract,
this
and
idea-
so do the.
Yeah.
You
This
were
idea
right.
of dividing and conquer,
Which is labor.
which is stupid.
They got what's the police contract, which is generous.
Yeah.
No matter what Gatz said he opposed,
and
it
that's
went
before
through.
we knew about the Chiefs Day issue.
That's a different thing.
No, I know it's a different thing, but it's another. The
Yeah, I
fact-
was just reading about
It
that.
must be galling to people, to teachers in this city, to know that 450 days free of pay were given out to police officers. That money was found for that because it's actual money.
It could be as much as $1 million.
Right. So
Nobody knows because they won't
right.
tote it up.
Right. But
But I got to say, I think Chief Capano, I read,
yeah, it's all too much inside the beltway.
What was
inside
that?
school.
Am I having trouble with this microphone? It is up. Oh,
Do you want me to swap?
switch. Oh, you can do that.
It's on the microphone.
All right. So I can.
So you're saving yourself from liability
I
here,
can swap
baby.
microphones. How's that?
Bring that one over to me. I like to be like I'm the president of the United the
Oh,
old
yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah. You'd be like FDR.
Who
front
was
the-
taken off of the dinner? Just the Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, really?
The greatest man, American of the 20th century.
So when you talk about the Bernie Sanders thing, what
Bernie Sanders is a good man.
Yes, he is. So what annoys me about the Bernie Sanders, I've seen this over the years in other places and other times with politics. This
He cares about that.
this idea he does. So this idea that people would say, sort of people who are sort of nihilist, anarchist types, right, who will align themselves with someone like Bernie Sanders and say, "Oh, we're Bernie Sanders people." No, they're not Bernie Sanders people. What they are people who are anti-establishment people.
Yeah, because Sanders is very much a pragmatic.
Right.
He supports the F-35,
Right.
the greatest boondoggle in history.
Right, so
'cause it's good for his state.
So this idea that we're Bernie Sanders people, that doesn't wash with me. I was very annoyed in the last presidential election that where there were these people. I can understand, you have a candidate, you put a lot of passion behind them and effort and all that, and you're disappointed when they don't make it. But to decide to like burn the house down. it just doesn't make any sense to me. In my worldview, there's some objective truth. It's not all comparative between one person and another. In the end, there's principles that people stand for.
Right.
If you stand for principles, and insofar as any one person can encapsulate your particular principles, I mean, I rail against sort of the politics of personality, where people try and.
But it's always been the way. Disraeli,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. But it's an amazing. When you think about it, the whole idea that one person can encapsulate just you as an individual, let alone the whole community. Churchill, yeah.
Except to the working classes, particularly in Wales.
Right. Well,
In Ireland.
Right. And in the end, who did Churchill represent in England? I'm a great admirer of Churchill's. Don't get me wrong.
My cousin.
With all his faults, yes, I remember. But Churchill didn't represent the coal miners of the Welsh valleys, and he wasn't
And
representing.
Paul
the
Robeson used to go there and sing to them.
Right. So these guys, so anyway,
But
the whole idea.
they don't have a parliamentary. We don't have a parliamentary democracy. If we had a parliament, Bernie might have a chance to get into power. Not in the United States,
here.
though.
No, but
because a lot of those people, Matt, remember, he appealed to relatively uneducated working class men
Right.
who would go off to Trump, because they're not going to. They're going to make this distinction what this is or that.
Right,
Trump
right.
was offering them stuff too.
Yeah. Well, Trump is frightening to me, and I
The
don't.
old Democratic protectionism.
Because this is all the politics of personality, and it's it's a problem in long before President Trump. If you look at, let's take any of the presidential elections, and as they whip up into a frenzy, you get formerly rational people who have put so much of their value and expectation and hopes and dreams into the hands of one guy that they couldn't have named a year earlier. Like whoever the Democratic candidate might be for 2020, we don't know who that is yet. Let's presume it's not Joe Biden, and let's say it's not Elizabeth
Kamala
Warren
Harris.
or something. But it could be, let's say Kamala Harris. It could be someone that we, that's little known. And yet there will be people in Manchester, hopefully not physically fighting, but shouting at each other about her and saying she's the kind. I like her.
Yeah, she didn't prosecute Wells Fargo.
And it's like, but you know what I mean? Like people will put all their emotions behind this person, and it takes them 12 months of a campaign to get there.
But Bernie's unique.
Oh, Bernie is unique. Yeah. For
He
sure.
really was unique. He came
was.
of age at a time where he said something. Wasn't a very attractive person, and to me in that, but he was speaking to people. But the closest I can of the people, because I covered many campaigns, I used to do it for Yahoo News, was Ron Paul, not Rand.
Yeah,
Ron Paul had the same. Those kids all talked about the debt they were under. He's going to go back to the gold standard, one of the most ridiculous things. The gold standard never did anything but create more depressions.
Right.
Excuse me. But
Elizabeth
Warren's a great person. She's wonderful and everything. She's just a little naive. She's like starstruck with Bernie.
And the other thing is, and look, I know.
And I don't think she did not approve of that path.
Okay, and then the other thing is, like, this isn't about Elizabeth, but
It's
like
not.
The other thing is, I would have. I don't care who. Like the fact that somebody supports Eddie Edwards. Why should I be mad about that? I'm not mad about that.
Eddie's fun. in a way,
Is he?
but-
I don't know. But I just
and she knows him.
Yeah, my thing is the sort of the two don't match. It's the juxtaposition of sort of running as a Democrat and supporting Eddie
Well, can we
Edwards. I
be
don't
frank?
understand.
Where did Molly Kelly come from? From Gene Shaheen's kitchen cabinet?
Right.
When was she last even in office? They couldn't.
I don't know where.
And then you got Colin Van Osten, who didn't have the courage to run for governor
Well,
against
he's
Sununu.
running for Secretary of State.
There is no Secretary of State race, Jim.
Right,
And he's
well-
calling Bill Gardner a fascist and stuff. It's ridiculous. And
Well-
I have a few things I could tell you. I gave him some tips about voter fraud.
But in fairness to Colin Van Osten, he did run. Last time, he ran. He
But why didn't he
for
run
public
again?
Office. I don't know.
Because
I
he's
don't know.
running for Senate, Jim.
Right. Maybe.
And
And then in the
not-
case
that's
of
the
Molly
word.
Kelly, whatever
They had
came,
to find-
she came through it, but she came through a process. She had to beat people to get the nomination.
Yeah, but people don't even know who she is. And people were upset about that because Steve Marchand, who I think was a little too identified with marijuana.
Yeah, there were
And
so
he
many
could've
great
used the
candidates in that
toupee.
field. I was so impressed with the gentleman I had on here one night, Mr. Soldado.
What
What an
that was for
amazing-
Congress.
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
enjoyed
what an
him.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah. Well,
And
what,
then
what
the
an
young
amazing.
veteran that was a prosecutor out like in Rochester or something. Did you have him on?
I did not know.
Terrence.
Terrence.
Oh, he was
Yeah.
a real liberal.
There-
But Lincoln Soldati was an old-fashioned liberal.
I loved him, you know, and I well, I loved him, it's too strongly put, but you know, he
Jim,
was a
is there
guy.
something
who,
you want to tell us?
Not tonight, but you know, he was. I was just impressed with his well-roundedness, the depth of his knowledge across multiple areas. You know, his experience was widespread. You know, he had a military experience, he had a prosecutorial experience, he had public service experience, and I'm thinking to myself, in any other election, this guy, you know, what a great candidate he would have made. So it's not that we're stuck for good candidates.
Yeah, but Chris Pappas really is like New Hampshire. He's a great guy,
right?
He's liberal,
and I can't help but tie it into the national race and say, you know, there is a race on for the House, and you know, the Trump presidency without a countervailing view, a counterbalancing view. So let's, as the tea leaves look today,
we're going to win. I'm about to. I was telling Jim before. I'm going to go have my name struck from the register.
Well, do that after
the Democrats are 80% House, but the Republicans, like 2/3, going to keep the Senate.
Yeah, it's going to be conservative. It's very difficult for them to win the Senate, but that's fine because the Senate is set up for a big change, regardless of what national politics are. Just the seats that are coming up, just the opposite of what's coming up today, of sort of
we had seats. The Democrats had too many.
So in 2 years' time, but in the end, I don't.
We won't be alive in 2 years after this nut.
Well, we have our friend Bolton is in Moscow tonight, and
Moskva,
tearing up the nuclear.
Which we violate, and they do.
Yeah, but now we're going to tear it up, and anybody who thinks
I can't talk to you about that. I know too much. You're going to make me violate the SNEP VUS.
We're not. Well, no, we're not going to go there because, you know...
it is a dangerous thing to do, but we're always cheating. We're all cheating. I can tell you a story, but I can't.
I'd have to go to the Baltic. I could talk about the Baltic, the former Soviet republics of Lithuania and Latvia. I spent some time visiting there.
You did? What people forget is that he had the tanks ready to go right through Vilnius into Kaliningrad in September. And our press doesn't talk about it.
Well,
and the funniest thing is, the Russian ambassador says, "Hey, I just had Trump's son and his son-in-law here."
Right.
Baking cakes. Oh my God! Afterwards, everything I hear, or that his father gave him all the money. Hey, I've been saying that. Everybody knows it was in New York. Gave him
the thing, just one of the thing with the nuclear weapons thing is that you know.
Nukes are good, Jim.
So the nuclear weapon thing is that this is not as it appears at first that Trump is walking out and that's damaging, that's sort of going to annoy Putin. No, but this is Putin. You're doing Putin's work here. You know, Putin would love to be free.
When has he not done
exactly?
Putin's work?
So he would love to be freed up from this treaty.
That was the great shock.
And because remember, they've got their southern and eastern flank, right? That there's
Western Ukraine.
The competition between China and Russia is real, no matter how things right. Yeah. So you
West.
Always
that's right.
Yeah.
West. I'm thinking going west.
Yeah. So I'm saying that there's always, we have this Occidental view of the world, right? And sort of this transatlantic thing. But if you're sitting in your Russia, then Russia, the Chinese, to be sitting in Russia looking at the growth of Chinese power and development of its military,
that was part of their great game.
Right. So they would love to be freed up to because right now the Chinese are not part of the nuclear nuclear treaty.
They are a nuclear power. It's in '65. They have
but
they have the ability to hit us with. They have the most latest U.S. designs,
and they're free to create their own intermediate nuclear weapons because they're not part of that weapon ban. So in response to that, the Russians would love to be freed up to do whatever they want. So it just doesn't make any. My point.
You can't use nuclear weapons.
Well, the problem is if you can make nuclear weapons that are strategic, that are tactical nuclear weapons.
I was just reading about.
Changes the.
I was just reading Daniel Ellsberg's book. That's what he did. That's what he was at the RAND. He knew Henry Kissinger before the Pentagon Papers were published. He was still talking to Henry Kissinger, and Kissinger's big thing was nuclear war, nuclear deterrence.
Well, I was listening today to Ronald Reagan's chief negotiator on this treaty. And,
which one?
And I've forgotten the man's name. but on the so he was saying that at the time of the Reagan in '81, when this treaty was signed, that as a result of it, 8,000 nuclear warheads were destroyed as a result of this treaty. And so it makes
I know people that did it.
It makes no expense whatsoever
to.
Is it one you can talk about here, or we have to go to the White Room?
I can't tell. I can't. It's classified.
Yeah,
but, at this point, except I was watching Lawrence O'Donnell. And they're saying Roger Stone's in trouble. Oh my God! I used to talk to him.
Really?
I mean, one of his books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Killing Kennedy.
Right. Well, so I just think that this thing that happens today, that's happening today. I mean, Bolton's been a warmonger since time immemorial, and he's never seen a treaty. He just like Trump, he's never seen a treaty that he didn't want to tear up.
But I think the only thing it represents is a tremendous loss of money, of capital, but it's exempt from GATT.
Well, the problem with this is that now we're going to, I just worry about the direction in which we're headed, opening up the doors to a nuclear arms race, and I think people must be. Well, look, nothing's too expensive when it comes to people making money out of it. So,
right, but that is why it's transpiring.
Right. So there are some people going to make a lot of money out of this, and I don't believe for a minute there isn't a connection between one and the other. But I just think of in my lifetime as we reached a high point of well, last week was the anniversary of the announcement of the Russian missiles in Cuba. And from the 1960s through the 1980s, we got to a point, culminating with the START Treaty, that we would.
Well, I know all about those.
Yeah, that we would limit these nuclear weapons. And now to be undoing that just seems to me such a backward step. And I guess it comes to the fact that I just have no confidence in the Trump administration.
I'll give you Ellsberg's book about Nixon. Nixon was a severe alcoholic. In fact, Haldeman, who had worked with him 62, said, if you're still drinking, I'm not coming on the campaign. But, he suffered from severe alcoholism. Very bright man, but.
Yeah.
And he's saying, by 71, he was talking, I want the Russians, Chinese think I'm bad. Crazy, like somebody else.
Right.
So they don't know what I would do. Then he took us to the Defense Condition Before Nuclear War over Bangladesh. That's East Pakistan War, broke Jack Anderson. All of a sudden, everything's leaking because he realized this guy he's not just doing this for the Chinese.
Right.
And he's asking Kissinger, and it's in Ellsberg's book, Daniel Ellsberg, who I met through Howard Zinn, and I didn't realize what hockey was, and that he was a genius. And his thing, he was at the Rand Corporation. You all know Vietnam, right from the beginning, was a stalemate and worthless, but they keep going on. But he said when the bombing of North Vietnam, because he was supposed to pull everything out and end it, and he had the opportunity and blame it all on the Democrats, but he couldn't. He wanted to go nuclear in Vietnam, and Henry Kissinger, oh no, we could not do that. I've met, when I was young at BU, statistics professor, who was a B-52 pilot in the Christmas bombing of Hanoi, and they went in and had a tremendous pad strike, and then Nixon said, "You're going to go the same pattern again." So they did, and the SAMs start moving. Hanoi, the surface-to-air missiles. The guy said are like these big telephone poles.
Right.
And then he demanded a third time. I think the Secretary of the Air Force refused. He took over command of the Air Force. They did it 5 nights in a row. By the 5th night, you know how many B-52s were going down? You can always tell when a vet up at the VA combat is what year they're from. They either hate LBJ or they hate Nixon.
Right.
And the Nixon,
because
the military by Nixon's time was totally degraded.
But then why a civilian head? I understand, head of the armed forces and all that stuff. But I mean, that's like, why?
Crazy. Who's that reminding you of Trump?
Right.
But
I remember a guy in the Navy years ago, and just like how command can, lunatic people. I knew a guy, and I can't tell you how I know this.
Yeah, I know.
There was a guy in the Navy, because I wasn't in the Navy, but there was a guy in the Navy.
I understand, yeah.
And And he used to pump tablets like pills. He was pumping pills all for whatever his condition was.
JFK was
He was
on,
he used
speed
to
and
like
Cuban Missile
when
Test.
something was happening, he'd grab he'd shake out. But anyway, one of his things, which was that this was on a minesweeper. And on the minesweeper, the guys on duty at nighttime, where his cabin was right behind below the bridge, and so he could hear the duty.
Oh, he's doing the sonar. Was he
Yeah, they were but not just wherever they were. This was just like when they were on dockside, and they would have guys, like.
Oh, you mean the spying?
No,
Like
no.
Buster
This is just a
Crabbe
story about the
and
guy.
58
I'm just
in
saying,
London?
how crazy this guy was. He had the sentries take their boots off, and they had to walk around in their socks because the noise on the planking, because
was
it was
driving
wooden
him
planking,
crazy.
it was
He had
driving crazy.
PTSD.
So they're driving. So no, the same guy. So he gave.
Well, that's the Kane court martial. Kane mutiny court martial. Remember Bogey? Who's the strong?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the balls. Yeah, yeah.
And it's
yeah,
so great
I
because at
love
the
that.
end,
That's
that
a great movie.
another great actor who won the Oscar playing Jose Ferrer says, he defends him and breaks him, and then he comes and he just lays into them what they did to him.
So yeah, and I'd like to go back to that and say that because that's a great movie. I'd go
We
back
should
and
talk
watch
about
that again.
movies.
We can do it. But this guy, just to give you an example, so later on when he wasn't on, I was talking to an armaments officer who said that this guy gave an order to shoot. Because he was mad at they were being mocked by sailors on or by fishermen on a fishing vessel, and they were
Vietnam?
They were taunting the ship, right? This was in a peacetime, and this captain
that's
who
an
was
illegal
a
order.
lunatic. It was, and the armaments officer, the CO said they just refused the order, but the guy's shouting at him. He said, fire him. The guy's like, you're joking. He said, no, fire on him right now. He's shouting and fire on him right now. He wanted to.
Well, he must have been relieved of his command soon after that.
He was there for a long time. People just knew. I'm just talking about the lunacy that can happen. I was talking to anyway, it just the fact that someone has a position of authority and has managed to be promoted to a certain point.
I'd like to.
People can get dysfunctional at
Well,
that
I'd just
point.
like to say something. I hope about the West Side rape, and I don't want to be criticizing Nick Willard about certain, because there's a book called The Lucifer Effect,
Yes.
and it's about Thomas Pappas, the colonel who was court-martialed for Abu Ghraib. I knew him, and I'm not going
Really?
to tell you how,
Okay.
but he meant a lot to me. He meant a lot to all of us. We believe that I bet anything on it, that the oral orders came down from the office of the president to the area commander, who's a lieutenant general, down to the brigadier general, who's a woman from the Maine National Guard.
Yes.
Perfect Patsy, who got.
She was the Patsy
and
at
then
Abu Ghraib.
to Colonel Pappas, who executes the orders, and then. So, whatever happened, the investigation.
Well,
I believe, but this is only my opinion, and it's just based on pure speculation, that he was ordered not to go into the community.
Well, the idea-
because Nick Willard would have gone into that community. He would have made sure that
Right.
people knew. Because that's the type of person he was. And on this program, I say he was a hero for going around Gatsis about the domestic abuse and with the lawyers, with the city solicitor's office.
Right.
He is the type of person that would do that. And
Right.
for Gatsis to put him into that position.
Right. Well, this is the kind of corruption that goes on. I mean, I go back to the
It's
Abu
a
Ghraib case.
corruption. It's an institutional dynamic.
Right. But so how
like we
does
talk about the
how does a
military.
soldier like Private English end up getting carrying the can for the atrocities in Abu Ghraib?
I
And
honestly believe.
the guys in the trenches get it all the time.
I honestly believe that, and I'm sure he must have, and this is just speculation. He must have been upset by that.
You're going back to Willard now, right?
Well,
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons he went around Gatsis that time.
Right.
And
But
he had the appointment for Marshall, which gave him a buffer, but that took a long time to come down, and
Right.
he could have lost it. But I really think that influenced what he did.
Yeah, but he was. I thought he was close with Gatsis, though.
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah.
I have no idea.
I
I know
don't
he's
know
close. I know he liked Kelly Ayotte, but I like Kelly
Yeah.
Ayotte.
I learned.
I wish she had been if she had been handcuffed by Like, she could have been a Warren Rudman or something. But
Right.
it's
yeah.
impossible to
I
be a
wish-
Warren Rudman.
Wouldn't it be great to have a Warren Rudman today?
But but she couldn't resist the siren call of the right that bring her over. And then you got Rich Girard attacking her for being soft on abortion when he's asking his would-be mistress. She's got an IUD, which is an abortion-producing device, according to the Vatican.
Right.
I'm so sick of politics.
Well, I learned about Manchester a long time ago. I've been here 26 years, and
I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving.
Well,
I have to leave. They said where I'm going, I'll still be a citizen of here. But what I got to do, I can't be here.
Right. Well, okay. So anyway, I'm just saying. When I hear about all this, it's Manchester is so small and so unimportant in
But
the
it's
ultimate
not
of
unimportant.
things.
We pick your president.
No. Well,
And if you were
that's
going to
true,
think
too.
about what we just saw about and we see with the certain people about grabbing by about ignoring women.
Hey,
in
there was some
peril.
guy today. Did you see
Who
this
would-
thing today?
Who would you think would be New Hampshire, where he won 60% of the Republican Party? Who would you think we'd send to be president with the type of attitude of, oh, to hell with the girl that got raped, this, that, and the other thing? Donald Trump.
Low,
This place is freakish.
low standards in high places.
Why didn't Obama, with 2 African American attorney generals, our firemen, from what Joe Lavasser said, and I don't doubt it, and I haven't heard anything contradictory, has no blacks, no women, and possibly 1 Hispanic out of 260 fighters. I don't see these progressive candidates running for Congress, firemen, talking about that, do you? Or about
Yeah.
affirmative action.
I did it-
Because you don't want to alienate the all-important white Democratic, potentially Reagan Democratic voter by something as pesky.
Are those
as
days
civil
not
rights.
gone though? Or like,
It's
is that
all-
not behind us?
The civil
Or
rights
it ought
bar
to
is
be.
over now with Kavanaugh. Just like the sexual harassment bar died in the 90s. Age discrimination in the last decade. Racial discrimination's over. Those have to be, it's over.
Yeah,
See
I
what
don't know,
Kavanaugh's
I know.
first decision was? Upholding his own decision that the EPA can't regulate certain types of emissions.
Right,
We're going to go
right.
back to a place where I held Matt Carter. I used to play in human feces in the river, down the Piscataqua River. He said,
Right.
how could you do that? What do you mean? There was no EPA.
Right, right.
These kids now, even the socialists and the people, they have never seen what it's really like to live in a place that isn't regulated. It doesn't have, good regulation or environment or a tort
But then we
laws.
get like people like the
it's going
the people
back.
who go back to like the Free State Project people, the people who are sort
But they
who
have-
are like they're
But that's who they
anti-establishments.
are.
Yeah, that's who
But
they are.
that's who they are.
They because so they're not. These are just political opinions. Doesn't
They don't
make them-
hide what they
but
are.
No, they don't.
And they
That's
don't
fine.
pretend
Which is-
that they're all
Well,
outraged
some of them
about
do. Let's-
Charlottesville, and then when they have a thing in Charlottesville, all over New England, they don't have a damn
well,
thing here in
I
Manchester.
won't. I said too quickly that they don't hide who they do hide who they are all the time because they run for office. Claiming to be something else.
A meme is
But-
we're talking,
Right, right.
and our Democratic Party here in City of Manchester has adopted Amanda Bolden and her husband as staunch Democrats. We're including I'll tell you a name, says she's just as liberal as I am. Right, and you support open carry. Come on.
Right,
The
right.
people that will brainwash themselves, because all they want is power. It's politicians, ego, power. Ego, power.
Right.
Do
Well-
you see people here talking about things? Talking about, no. They're just going to give some innocuous bullet list that comes down from Concord to the New Hampshire Democrat Party. That's why the
So-
Republicans
so-
must have, because they got some grit that
Right.
people
So how does the average citizen of Manchester, who's not part of all this
Don't
internet
vote.
scene, no, don't go there. That's not right.
don't vote. Oh, then I can't vote for Lou or Heidi
Not
or
voting's not the
Connie
answer.
and I'm going to vote for Chris Pappas.
But
how
how
about
would-
if I vote absentee? Because I think I'm going to be in Washington that day.
Well, you can, right? Just go get the absentee ballot and off you go.
I used to be down at that polls all the time,
But-
putting out signs to where I was exhausted.
Right. I mean, people ask me, how should I vote? And not that people should have to ask me, but
Write my
sometimes they
name
do.
in for what's it? Register of Deeds. I need a job.
Right.
I live on $740 a month. So Mark McKenzie would be thinking of suing me. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
You have to
rich
throw
on-
somebody
get
else
rich-
into the
get-
mix,
yeah.
like Jim over
No,
here.
I can't believe I still don't understand how that job was decided on the night of the primary. So,
But I got to give it to Ed though. I like Ed.
yeah. Well, I'm fine with. No, I don't.
And you know
dislike
who's
the guy.
really angry?
Who?
Erica Connors, that they let him have that because he's going to run against her.
Right. Well, she shouldn't have any worries. You know,
She lost the school board.
Yeah. But Ed, my difficulty with Ed is that
She would be a good alderman.
I don't mean to be unkind to him, but he lives in a fact-free environment. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. Ed is not someone who is going to. In my conversations with him,
He's got 55 grand though.
Well,
that's a lot of signs.
Yeah.
He's got a pension, I
good
think.
for he had probably a couple, right? Wasn't he in the military and he was everywhere else? So
I ran for county treasurer on slogan "End Waste, Fraud, and Corruption." There's not a single thing about that, or whistleblower law, or rolling back strategic lawsuits against public participation in the Democratic Party, because I'm going to tell you something. They want Joe Lavasser on that board. They want the Rich Gerards and stuff. They really do.
yeah, I don't know. But
Look about when
I don't even.
Carol
know
Robideau went before that board about Lavasser out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Who else went? Who else said anything? Who else
Right.
did anything? I asked people to just at least send a message to the thing. They won't do anything. Then I talked to somebody. Oh, I like Joe. Well, yeah, that's a good reason. And in Londonderry, when they had somebody like Lavasser leaking stuff, clearly off his gourd, they got him off. Or they at least shut him up with his TV show where he leaks information.
Who's the guy who was on...
Joe Lavasser is an officer of the court. He's not supposed to lie.
Right.
And he's talking. Is it what's the guy's name? Who's the finance officer? I just saw him today. He looks like McNamara, the Secretary of Defense.
Oh yeah.
I said, well, he does do a great job.
Yeah,
what he does.
he does.
But did you know that he
He's
was
a lot to put up with.
Did you know that he was? He's a member of the. What do the Trump people call the secret state or?
Oh, the deep state. He's part of the deep state.
I asked somebody who, how can Stinky Gerard and Lavasser just go at it week after week, year after year? Where me, I get torn up about all this stuff. They don't care. They don't care about anything.
Well, I go back to this fact-free environment thing. I don't know
about Ed Sapienza.
I don't know about about any of these people. Like it's just that like facts don't matter, so you can say whatever you want.
Nothing matters here,
Right.
Jim.
Right.
What matters? When I read, I was right to know and trying to find out, the lawyer sent the first letter in November after the rape in 2015. He had to know. Unlike what he says, I didn't know about the rape until Hogan reveals it.
Right.
He had to know because that had to be factored into the budgets and
Right.
all that. I'll show you an email.
But
I will show you the email I sent to him asking about the risk management function before he hit me with a lawsuit.
Right.
Shut me up. Nobody's going to shut me up now. I'm never going to go through that process again because
Right.
I have nothing to lose.
Right.
Shut me up, though.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
But the point is,
They get.
where are the people? Where are people saying
Most people
that?
aren't paying
Bedford,
attention.
Exeter. They are in Bedford.
Right.
They're going to run everybody off that board because why? Why is this? Gatz they're so scared of him to this day
Right.
that they could. I'm going to say, because I have compassion. I had like Satori about him. Because you know why? I'll say it to the camera. I got 2 minutes. I actually feel compassion for him. And I've forgiven him, which is a big thing for me. Because the contempt I feel for the politicians in this city. Can you imagine his sadness, where what he did? And you got like Billy Shays and the people, or having to have allies like Hirschman or Lavasser or Stinky, that they actually kissed his behind and legitimated this, because he knows better than that. Mm-hmm. He knows better than that. These people, the contempt he must have for them, and he treats them people contemptuously, and I feel the same contempt. So we're different people, but that's his sadness. To be in a city where he was able to get away with it because nobody would oppose him. They've got to kiss that rump because he'll buy him dinner, or maybe there's a business opportunity from him or somebody of his supporters. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I just think
it's
there's
grotesque.
And
you can have the last word.
No, I don't.
What can you say, Jim?
Yeah, no, I don't have much to say other than I kind of get it's depressing and leads one to despair to sort of think that that there's a hopelessness around public life, that we either have people who are cowardly or people who are.
This is a city of cowards.
Yeah. Which is a terrible thing.
It's a terrible thing.
It's a terrible thing. And I like to be benevolent in my thinking and thinking that people are well-intentioned.
I would like to too,
but they're well-intentioned, but they're just misinformed, uninformed, or
well,
are being
Burke
outsmarted.
said, Edmund Burke, and we'll end it with this, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. But if you know about the Holocaust or Vichy France or places, good people do evil. Right. That's a thing.
Yeah.
But goodbye. Next week we're gonna have the professor back on.
All right.
And I hope you'll be here. You help keep me from raging.
Okay. Good man. Thank you, folks. It's a pleasure as usual.
Bye.
I guess this is just another lost cause, Mr. Payne. All you people don't know about lost causes. Mr. Payne does. He said once they were the only causes worth fighting for. And he fought for them once. For the only reason any man ever fights for them. Because of just one plain, simple rule. Love thy neighbor. And in this world today full of hatred, a man who knows that one rule has a great trust.